1. Paid news and the economics of the news industry. GS Paper 4, Media Ethics. What is the context is about? Almost every recent election in India has featured allegations of paid news, and the latest round of assembly polls was no exception. What do you mean by paid news? Paid news or paid content are those articles in newspapers, magazines and the electronic media, which indicate favorable conditions for the institution that has paid for it. The news is much like an advertisement but without the ad tag. Why paid news is a threat to Indian democracy. It seems the Election Commission of India is the only body in the country that is seriously trying to combat the pernicious practice of paid news. Paid news on politicians and political parties subvert one of the most fundamental of democratic ideals, the purity of the vote. The autonomy of the media is meant to facilitate greater accountability of public personalities and reduce corruption. But when the media itself indulges in corrupt practices, especially during election campaigns, it seriously undermines the processes and structures that are meant to uphold and strengthen democracy. Paid news is difficult to identify through a search for any fixed set of parameters alone. Black money, which is also notoriously hard to tag or track, is very often involved in paid news. What needs to be done to curb paid news? Election Commission, for instance, needs to play proactive role. ECI should set up a special cell to receive complaints about paid news in the run-up to the polls. ECI must initiate action against offenders. ECI needs to nominate independent journalists or public figures to help monitor the phenomenon during elections. Media organizations needs to desist from having their correspondents double up as agents collecting advertisements for their organizations and receiving a commission on that revenue, instead of regular salaries, retainers or stipends. Concerns about the paid news. Paid news has been considered a serious malpractice since it deceives the citizens, not letting them know that the news is, in fact, an advertisement. Secondly, the payment modes usually violate tax laws and election spending laws. More seriously, it has raised electoral concerns because the media has a direct influence on voters. 2. Gangotri Glacier retreated by 3 kilometers in 2 centuries. GS Paper 3, Environment and Ecology. What is the issue is about? Gomuck, the snout of the Gangotri Glacier has retreated by over 3 kilometers since 1817, says glaciologist. Data shows that the rate of retreat has increased sharply since 1971. The rate of retreat is 22 meters per year. It was nearly 2 centuries ago that the retreat of the glacier was first documented by John Hodgson, a Survey of India geologist. What causes Himalayan glaciers to grow or shrink over time? The impact of global warming is perhaps already upon the Himalayas. The central and eastern Himalayan glaciers are particularly more sensitive to temperature than to other climatic factors because of the monsoon-driven climatic conditions in the region. Unlike glaciers of Europe and other higher latitudes, both accumulation, because of precipitation in higher elevations as snow, and ablation in these parts occur during summer months, making them very sensitive to temperature changes. The Karakoram glaciers of the western Himalayas, the Siachen Glacier belongs to this class, are, however, more like the European glaciers with accumulation in winter and ablation in summer. A perceptible impact of global warming has been in evidence in the Himalayan glaciers over the last few decades. Will global warming result in the drying up of Ganga River? The glacier has been retreating at different rates. In the late 1960s, the retreat rate of the Gangotri Glacier was about 30 meters per year. Over the past few decades, the rate of recession of Gangotri Glacier has been between 22 and 27 meters per year. Assuming the recession rate of Gangotri Glacier to be 40 meters per year, simple computations show that a glacier of 30 kilometers length will take about 700 years to completely melt away. Further, there will be years of heavy snowfall in between which will extend the life of the glaciers. Thus the prediction that the Gangotri Glacier system would become extinct by 2035 is alarming.